and welcome to Breakup Bites. I'm Jennifer Barkin, and here is my co host, Jennifer Donison. So, today, Jennifer, we are going to talk about parenting plan evaluations. I don't think a lot of our listeners know what a parenting plan evaluation is.
Mhm.
A little bit of backstory. About a week ago, Jennifer and I were in a course. Um, really to upgrade our skills because we love being current. That is so important in what we do, so that we can best help our clients. So we did a course with the American Family and Conciliatory Courts in parenting plan evaluations. And Jen, do you want to maybe explain what a parenting plan evaluation is?
Sure. So it's a voluntary process unless it's court ordered. And it's something that people will want to get if they're both too far apart on what they're wanting. So, if, for example, the parenting plan isn't something that they're agreeable to, and mom says she wants the kids full time because dad isn't capable of caring for the kids, for example, and dad says he's fully capable, and mom is an alcoholic, and there's all these accusations flying, they usually try to conduct a parenting plan evaluation for a professional to come in and to assess the situation, to make sure they speak to collaterals and to people to understand what is actually going on. They go into the homes of both parents and they observe. They watch and see how the parents are interacting with the children and how the children interact with the parents and other siblings or other new partners. And evidently, at the end of the day, there is a report that is going to be drafted up to what the professional thinks is an appropriate schedule that should occur. And one of the things that is really important to note is that this parenting plan evaluation and the recommendations from the assessor holds usually a lot of weight when going through a court proceeding. The judge will look at it and understand that an unbiased person comes in and wrote this report with the experience behind them. And the judge will take that into greater consideration when determining what it is that they think is a good, appropriate plan for this family.
Good explanation. So, you spoke a little bit about how they can be ordered by the court, or people can choose to get this parenting plan evaluation in the private sector. Um, Important to know that a court will not always recommend a parenting plan evaluation, even if it would be very helpful to the family. And why is that? Well, why else? Funding. Um, It is a long, lengthy process. It's an expensive, costly process. So only so many people, um, even if it's a recommendation, will have it court approved. And the nice thing about a court approved parenting plan evaluation clearly is the fact that it's paid for because these things are very costly. And they're very costly because you're paying for the expertise and professional experience of the assessor, but you are also, you're paying for their education. But because again, it's so lengthy, um, time costs money. So a lot of people do not get approved by the courts to have this done for them, in a funded way. So how much does this cost in the private sector? Well, from my understanding, $30,000 seems to be a ballpark figure, but it can go a lot higher. And what is going to raise the cost or change costs? Number one, what is the hourly rate of the assessor? So that hourly rate is going to be clearly based on the number of years they've been doing this and their experience. Other things, how many people are going to need to be interviewed? So, Jennifer, again, you touched on, the assessor is going to go into, or the evaluator is going to go into the home, meet with the children, meet with the parents, but they're also going to have meetings with professionals involved with the children, such as teachers and doctors and dentists and therapists, perhaps grandparents, extended family members, friends of the family. So costs are going to increase the more people that need to be interviewed.
Absolutely. And, there's been parenting plan evaluations that have been done. And obviously, one person is not going to be completely happy with the recommendations that have been made. And usually one, sometimes both. It depends on what recommendations. but it's very rare that everybody is happy with the outcome.
For sure. So, one thing I find that makes parents very nervous is the fact that the evaluator, the assessor goes into their home. People tend to think that what we're looking for is perfection and sort of like a Disneyland environment, and that's not true at all. We want to see how you live, we want to see how you parent, correct? But it does things don't have to be perfect because life isn't perfect. So what does that mean? If you have some toys around, that's okay. Um, we're really looking to see, are you on the floor? If you have a young child, engaging with your child, making eye contact, making conversation, or are you sitting on the couch, I don't know, watching a soap opera while your child's at the other end of the room and you're not engaging. So, don't worry, we're not looking to see if you have a big house, if you have a fancy house. We're just looking to see that you're providing a good home for your children and that you are interacting with them in a positive and appropriate way.
And to add to that, it's interesting when we see sometimes a fake interaction because it's very easily readable. So if you see a parent reprimanding a child for doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and the child looks at them like, "I've done this a million times. How come now you're saying something?" Or something along those lines. It's very easy. So I would suggest being as genuine as possible because it's not hard for the assessor to understand what is put on for the assessor and what is actually really genuine.
hmm Um, you also spoke about how there's sometimes both, but typically one parent isn't happy because if you think about this assessment, um, I don't really have a better way of saying it. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. So the person who's not getting what they want is not very happy. They've paid a ton of money and they haven't gotten their way. So knowing going in that there are recommendations and they may not go in your favor.
Yes, and ultimately refocusing back on not what they want and what I want, but what's best for the children. And everybody going into this usually thinks that their stance is what's best for the children, and they keep continuing to fight over it. And an assessor's job is to really take a neutral position and look at all of the factors that are involved and unemotionally be able to recommend what they feel is best. And obviously, it would be the best case scenario for both parents to come to that decision together, but unfortunately, that isn't always what is able to happen. And the assessment is really helpful to really refocus back on what is best for the children and how to make the recommendations that would, going forward, help them in the best way.
The other thing that's positive about getting an assessment is typically by the time the assessment is recommended or ordered, the family is in such limbo, the children are in such limbo. And as you said, it's always best when parents can make decisions. You know your children best, better than any judge, better than the assessor, better than anybody. But when people can't and they're in limbo, at least we're moving the family forward and at least there's a decision to be made, good, bad, whatever. But being in limbo is hurtful for kids and it's hard on everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind also that this is more of a lengthy process. It takes some time, and it will drive up the costs, how much evidence you do submit. So if there's hundreds and hundreds of emails that you would like to have the assessor look through and read, it's going to cost a lot of time and money. And you may want to really relook over the things that you're wanting the assessor to take into consideration because some of it may not paint you in the best picture as well.
So, on that note, something that people can do to make it more cost efficient for the evaluator or the assessor is if you do have those million emails, why not go through them yourself and send them under different topics and citing perhaps, your five best examples under each heading. And that will remove the need for every single exchange to be presented, therefore raising your costs.
You touched on a very important point, and that's organization. The more organized you are and have everything categorized or readily available if the assessor asks for it, the better decision that the assessor can make because they're informed. So organization is definitely key.
Definitely. So if somebody wants to get an assessment, where do they start?
If they have legal counsel, I think that they should mention that that's something that they'd like to put out there to see if the other party would be agreeable to it. Because sometimes the other party thinks it is necessary as well because they understand that they're at a huge impasse. And from there, the legal counsel will figure that out amongst themselves and talk about it. And if not, then, or if you're self represented, I think maybe to just have a little bit more information about what assessors to reach out to, who is private, what organizations, if you are going through the courts. So the OCL is one, the Office of the Children's Lawyer is one that is usually referred to when you're going through the court systems to try and see if they can provide their free service to you to help. But really just trying to vet out different professionals that you feel are right for your family. If there's abuse that is involved in your file, then maybe somebody who deals with domestic violence. If there's somebody, if you have a child or children with special needs, then somebody who has experience with that. Every situation has a unique element to it. And I think it's important to really find the best assessor for your situation. And then tell the other party what assessors that you found that you feel appropriate so that they can research them and see if it's a good fit for both of you.
Very good points. Very good points. What sort of training do assessors have to do this work?
I believe that there's mental health professionals that sometimes decide that they want to do assessments. So, a lot of psychologists or people that work in the industry. But again, there's going to be some assessors who aren't familiar with some children's special needs or things that a certain specific file may need. And that's when it's the assessor's job to say, listen, I appreciate you wanting to hire me, but I don't feel comfortable taking on this case because of XYZ. So having that initial call with the assessor is also important.
I really believe that that is so important that not every file or every case is for everybody. So you, as the client, should know certain particulars of your situation. Again, you focus on the special needs child. You mentioned the special needs child because they're all children have special needs, but a special needs child, may have some very unique and complicated needs. I would say when looking for an assessor, just some general rules of thumb, if you have had a lot of abuse, IPV or DV in your relationship, ensure that you choose an assessor who is very well versed and very well trained in these power imbalances. Um, I think child development training is essential for anybody doing a parenting plan evaluation because children need different things at different ages and stages, for sure.
Absolutely. All good points for sure. So, if anybody wants to learn more about assessments, which are also called Section 30s, or if anybody wants to just inquire and hear more about it, you can always let us know. We're happy to answer any questions. And hopefully, this was some information that you didn't know before and you've learned something.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Jen.
And to our listeners, thank you for watching or thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.